in order for the person to make a change, if that's what we'd like to accomplish, the only way to do that is truly to show love and understanding. So transformation takes place when we embrace the sinner. Does that mean that Jesus agreed with that sin? Did he agree with what she was doing by loving her? No, he did not. But it was necessary in this moment for her to experience the forgiving heart of God. And that's what we sometimes forget, that God is not the one who judges us. It is our own actions that judge us. And so we have to work on becoming a little bit more like Jesus and finding a way to express that love, even if you don't feel like it, to someone else. Just want to mention here on the side that it occurred to me as I was thinking about this whole issue of love and judgment, I thought in history, it's amazing that in the name of Christ, in the name of religion, in the name of God, people were killed, right? You know the Crusades, many thousands of people were killed because of that. We know the Native Americans were killed here in this country. We know that African American slaves came over. In the name of Christ, they were held slaves and uneducated. So what is that? What does that say? Are we really representing God when we do that? It's actually the opposite, wouldn't you say? It is actually doing a disservice to God and Jesus and those whom we supposedly represent by using their word or the word to put somebody down instead of uplifting with that word. And so the one who suffers the most in those cases is God himself, because he is misrepresented by those who are in the position of representing him. And the result is that then, instead of peace and harmony and love, we have resentment, we have war, and it continues on until today. It is truly a very sore point in history that needs to be addressed. It needs to be corrected. And I'm saying this morning because we are here in a position to address that, actually, in our daily lives. Because how will it change? It will not change by some politics or some kind of agreement. It has to change in the heart of man, in our own heart, right here and right now. So as we take a look at our movement, and I have to bring that up too, in our movement, you know our movement very well. How we sometimes have, even myself included, I was a center leader, and if people didn't do certain things, you judge them immediately. But unfortunately, many times they lost their faith, or they couldn't stay, they had to leave. And sometimes it's also our own children. We have done the same thing too. We used our own doctrine to teach them, something about God. But actually, it was not the right thing. Because the deeper point, deeper message that God wants to give through that word is his love. And that love needs to be felt. So by putting that word to someone as a judgment, it probably does the opposite. Dr. Inchi Moon always likes to use a story of the sun and the wind. They were in competition. They had a little competition. The wind and the sun were saying, well, who can make this person over here take the coat off first? And so the wind was very sure that, of course, it will blow very strongly. And the wind blew and blew and blew. And, well, the result was the man was pulling the coat tighter and tighter. And didn't take it off. But then when the sun began to shine, it got warmer and warmer. Finally, the man felt so warm he couldn't take it anymore. He had to take his coat off. So that's what happened. So the sun won the contest. And it shows us very simply that love is just much, much more powerful and effective than a word of judgment. And so the question here is, what can I do specifically? What can I actually do to keep myself from judging all the time and getting out of the habit or the pitfall of making a quick judgment on someone whom I don't even know, or someone I do know? And I just want to share with you 3 points that helped me personally in my life, and still working on it. But the number 1 point is find out what the facts are. fact-finding. I made a determination a long time ago that whenever I see something, if I can at all help it, I want to find out first, what is the reason for this to happen? Let's say, somebody gets bad grades all of a sudden in school, a young person gets bad grades. I could be upset about it or find out why. What is the reason why this young person doesn't, get good grades anymore? Or if somebody's drinking and smoking, instead of just judging, oh, this person is drinking and smoking, let's find out what the reason is. Because I believe everyone wants to be a good person. So there's usually a reason, and many times it is the reason because of lack of love, that someone chooses to go the wrong way. So, we know there are many, many instances where we can be so wrong, judging a person. And I don't know if you know the story by Stephen Covey, the man who had 5 children when he was in the subway. You know the story? Anybody know that story? This man was in a subway, had 5 children. They were all running around, screaming, yelling, and pulling people's coats and everything. So until finally this one guy couldn't take it anymore and said, that's it, stop this, stop your children, what's wrong with you? What kind of parent are you? And the man just shook his head, totally lost. He's lost in thought. Said, I'm sorry, sir, but their mother just died today. Suddenly, silence. This happens sometimes. You don't understand why somebody does something. And even in Dr. Ingelim's case, she shared a story one time, or somebody told me a story, that our elders came to her home in Lexington, and then they looked around, and they didn't see any pictures of Reverend Moon, of our founder, and our 2 parents. They didn't see any pictures. So they were very upset. So they told our father, Father Moon, that she has no pictures in her house. What's wrong with her? So he came, actually, because he always has to believe everyone, right? Father always trusts everyone. He came and checked. So, yeah, indeed, there was no picture in the whole floor. But then Ingelim came down in her pajamas, and she didn't say a word. But then she just ran upstairs, and then Father followed her. And as they came upstairs, there were pictures everywhere. So she just said, we decided that we will keep the downstairs free of pictures, because sometimes people misunderstand when we have pictures. So but what kind of heartache did that cause? What kind of, complication, right? And that's all because people judge so quickly. So the first, number 1 point is, never judge at first sight. Always take a deeper look. Take the time to take a deeper look at something. And number 2 is another interesting one. When you do find out what the problem is, and you still don't agree with that, or you still get upset, because somebody might have really had a bad motivation, right? Then it's very important to exercise something called self-control. It's called self-control. It's one of the virtues, by the way, one of the virtues that St. Paul talks about. We don't usually talk so much about it, but self-control is very important. I'm sure Jesus was also not very happy when he heard what she did, but did he get upset? No, he was very calm. So self-control is important because that helps us to maybe try to understand the person. And we heard in today's reading, understanding is the first way of express love. If you make someone feel understood, that person will be grateful. That person will open up instead of just telling them, judging them, and so forth. So if we can at all control ourselves and show that kind of love and understanding, the other person will feel that love of God coming through us. And you know what? Magic happens. In my case, I know if I do that, I feel the love of God myself for that person. And I can feel a love that I might not even have felt before about that person. Because in my own little narrow-minded, level of immaturity or whatever, I might not have seen the person from God's view. But if you try that, just try it out. Control self before saying a bad word. Try to understand, try to feel, and maybe even say a prayer. And then God will reveal something very deep to you about that person.